Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Santa Barbara House of Prayer series on the words of Jesus. And to me, the words of Jesus, all the words that came out of his mouth, the red words in the Bible, are life strategies. They are instructions and strategies for how to live life. And it turns out that life on earth was set up and designed to operate and work a certain way. And if we know what that way, what God intended and what he designed, the structure and the framework that he designed the world to operate from, if we know what that is, then we know it works and we know how to live. And this is what these are. They're ways to live. They're the ways that life was designed to work. And if we follow these strategies, life works the way God intended. It's brilliant. It's amazing. So today is the words of Jesus are from Luke 11:33 through 36. And how many of you know or remember that old Sunday school song from when we were kids? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Remember that song? Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, this is that passage. Luke 11:33 through 36. It's that song. So I am really excited to take this passage and unpack it. It is so multifaceted. Honestly, all the scriptures in the Bible are multifaceted, which means you can take each one, and within each scripture, it is just filled with so many different items that you can take out and look at. So I'm gonna unpack, and I'm gonna take out just a few of the items that are within this multifaceted passage. And I'm gonna read it. Here it goes. No one lights a lamp and puts it in a place where it will be hidden, or under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, so those who come in may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eyes are healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when they are unhealthy, your body also is full of darkness. See to it then that the light within you is not darkness. Therefore, if your whole body is full of light and no part of it is dark, it will be just as full of light as when a lamp shines its light on you. So it's really interesting. A lot about light and darkness and hiding the light under things. Really interesting. And I want to focus on just three different items in this full suitcase here. So number one, the light. I'm just fascinated by light right now, and I think we have yet to discover really what all goes into light. Light is a big deal, okay? And I myself have been I've been studying and focusing on getting a greater understanding of light and what that means, especially for us as believers who contain God's light. And then the second item I want to focus on is the eye. What is this talking about? The eye, and understanding the eye from a different paradigm from what maybe we have in the past. And the third thing I want to focus on is how to be careful that the light is not darkness. So let's go through here. My first question is, with the light, it says no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Well, who lights the light? Because that was my first question. Who lights the light, and where does it come from? And I think we all know we don't light the light. We're human beings. The light comes from something else. There's a source to the light that we have. So God, our creator, is the light, and he lights the light. Okay, he lights the light. So the light here that this is talking about is an inner light. It's the light within us that we contain, that we have. We are light bearers. And so God, our creator, our designer, lights the light within us. So that's one thing that we need to keep in mind. And the other thing is, the light comes from the light, where does the light come from? We know it comes from God, but it comes from within us. The light isn't out here in the air around us. The light is within us. So to me, that means that this is talking about an issue within. I used to, read this verse. I've known it since I was a kid because of the song. And I always thought that it meant be careful about what you see, what you allow your eyes to see. And I still think that that's true. I think this is one facet of this verse. And I have even taught my kids that, you want to be careful about what you watch and what you allow to come in your eyes, because it's going to impact you internally. But I think there's another facet, because light is within. That's where the light originates. It originates within us, and the source of it is God. He lights the light within us. So this is talking about something inside that comes out, and that is what I want to focus on. And the other thing that I want to say about the light is when it says that, who lights a lamp and puts it under a basket or a bushel, instead of putting it on a lampstand. And I just want to highlight this. So if we are the containers of light, and it's God's light within us, and it's meant to radiate and shine out of us, and God's saying, why would someone light a lamp and put it under a bushel? You know what that means? That means God intends for us to be seen. We're meant to be seen. We're meant to be visible. That light within us, and I believe everybody's light is unique, because God's light shines through us and radiates out in a unique way. We all emanate a unique quality of God. And so I think that this is saying, like, we are meant to be visible. We're meant to be out, shining, radiating, out on a lampstand, not covered, not hidden. So that is something really fascinating to me. And why? Why does God want us to be visible? Because when we allow ourselves to be visible and to be seen instead of hiding, sometimes I think a lot of times we tend to hide who we are, and we tend to cover it up, whether, the shame or guilt or fear of being seen, fear that, we're going to be made fun of, or we're not worthy. I don't know. There's a million different reasons of why human beings have a tendency to want to hide and cover up who we are, and to not allow ourselves to be visible and seen. But, when we are completely open, our spirits, souls, bodies are open, and that light is flowing through our entire beings and radiating out from us, we are visible. And when people see us, they see God. That's the whole idea. They see the glory of God, because God's light is his glory. And I can't imagine God's glory being anything other than light. And God doesn't have any darkness. He's only light. And so when people see us, we allow ourselves to be visible, they see God's glory. Isn't that amazing? We are the bearers and the emanators of God's glory. What an amazing privilege. What an amazing thing to steward, that we have stewardship over, of allowing God's glory to be visible through us. I mean, wow. I think that's amazing. I'm just thinking of it right now, just how fantastic, how marvelously we are made and designed. Can you imagine when you think about it that way? Why would we want to cover up the glory of God within us? Why would we want to hide that? Why would we be ashamed? Why would we think that it's not good enough, or there's something wrong to the degree that we needed to be ashamed? Like, what? We are the glory of God. The glory of God is contained within us. So very interesting. And the other thing that I thought of when I was reading this about the eye, because the next thing I want to talk about is the eye. What is this thing with the eye? And I'm thinking, there's, like I said, it's probably referring to the physical eye, like I said, and being careful about what comes in. But I think there's a deeper level to this verse too. And I think what this is really talking about is something else, is internal. And what it made me think of when it said the eye is the lamp of the body, what it made me think of is Ephesians 1. And this is one of my favorite verses. And it's the one that says, I pray that the eyes of your heart, the very center and core of your being, may be enlightened and flooded with light by the Holy Spirit. So when you add this is something that I think a lot of people have gotten backwards, because I think that, you know, the eyes of your heart are what this is talking about, your internal eyes. And this is saying that the eyes of your heart would be flooded with light. Here it is, light and eyes again. And, you know, God initiates the light because he is the light. And then in our hearts, we open our hearts to the light and we almost take it in. You know, when you go out in the sun and the sun's really warm and you just take in the sun, it's like that. God's the initiator of the light. He put it in us. And then we open the eyes of our hearts to absorb and to take in and to receive that light. It's truly, truly amazing. And it turns out, this is so exciting because I'm a nerd when it comes to looking at science, the latest scientific discoveries, and how it is proving what the Bible has said all along. I'm really into that right now. But it turns out, I recently read an article about the theory of the inside out theory. And there are scientists that are explaining that the very cells that make up all life, all the molecular life, are formed from the inside out. It's not the other way around. The physical matter does not go from the outside in. It goes from the inside out. And I don't really fully know how to explain that 100%, but this is a complete paradigm shift. And that's the other thing I want to say is this thing with the eye. I want to look at it through a complete paradigm shift. So that means shifting our understanding from thinking about the external and how the external affects the internal, and shift that and turn that around, that it's actually the internal, the very core. If you go down to the center of your being, at your core, we move outward. All of matter, all physical matter started with something internal and manifested physically at some point as physical matter, not the other way around. So the external does not determine our inside. There are things we can do externally, like, you know, you want to take in good, healthy food. You want to take in good things in your eyes that are positive, that are good, that are true and lovely. You want to take those things in, but the bottom line is the external doesn't determine the internal. It's the other way around. That's why Jesus could walk into any atmosphere, whether it was with prostitutes, whether it was with demonized people, whether it was in the religious, with the religious leaders. He could walk into any atmosphere and the light within him overtook the atmosphere. It wasn't the other way around. And so the real truth is that since the light originates on the inside of us and then comes and radiates out of us, that is what this is talking about. It's talking about the inside of you. And whatever is inside of us, and this is what the science is saying, whatever is inside of us will express, it will express in some way physically. That's how it works. It's not the other way around. Nothing from the external expresses it to us. It's the other way around. What we have inside expresses outward. Everything, all of life is that way. So it's very interesting. So what is the eye? What is the eye in this passage? And you know, if the eye is the lamp, it says the eye is the lamp of the body. And I like to read from the Amplified version. And when your eye is clear, and in my version it says spiritually perceptive and focused on God, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, spiritually blind, your body is full of darkness. So it's even talking about here in the Amplified spiritually, when your eye is clear spiritually, and when you're spiritually blind. So this is an internal issue. It's an issue of the heart, because when the heart is healthy, I'm talking about your spiritual heart. When the heart is healthy and it's open to receive fully what exists for you, to receive the light, to allow and permit the light to flood your entire being, your whole body is going to be full of light. And so this is really, really interesting. The eye is the internal eye, the eyes of your heart. And I do believe there's a correlation, because I think the physical and the spiritual are connected. I think if the eyes of your heart are open and healthy, and you're receiving that light fully, you're absorbing it in your whole being, and it's flowing through you, I think it does come out through your eyes. I think that it manifests, it radiates first and foremost from the eyes. And for whatever reason, I think that's how God created us. Have you ever met a person that their eyes just are sparkling, they're just gleaming, and you just literally see light? I mean, I have met certain people that I see light coming out of their eyes. On the flip side, I've seen people that have no light in your eyes. Have you ever seen that? Where their eyes are just dark and dull? It's really creepy. So there's something about the eyes manifesting what is inside. It's really interesting. So let's move on. The last thing, so here's the thing. I think that to keeping the eyes of our heart, the very core and center of our beings, always open to knowing God, open to understanding all the time. Because Ephesians 1 associates the eyes of your heart being illuminated with understanding and knowing God. So it's like your heart always open to know more, to growing, to understanding God more, to receiving more and understanding more of who He is, and and in that way we keep our spiritual perception on. Our spiritual perception is always on and always open to this continual flood of life, because that flood of light, that flood of light is continual. It's always flooding, and in that way we keep our lamp burning. And here's the third thing. Jesus is saying, and this is the words that Jesus is saying, this is the life strategy. Be careful that the light that is in you, here it is, inside you. The light is not out here. We're not talking about light, something coming in. We're talking about something in going out. So be careful that the light that is in you is not darkness. And here's the thing. What is darkness? I think sometimes we think of darkness as some evil force or some spiritual force, and it actually isn't. Darkness is when there's an absence of light. Darkness is a void of light, so it's where there's a void. And, a void can occur in for many different reasons. If there's a void of light, I think most of the time when there's a void of light, it doesn't mean evil necessarily. It doesn't mean something demonic. It can, because when there's an absence of light, the demonic moves into that void. That's what happens. But darkness can also be where the light has been shut out or closed off. And I think most often as humans, when we go through life and we experience something painful or discouraging or overwhelming, or we have shame or we have guilt and we believe we're not good enough, we're unworthy, all those different types of things, as a self-protection mechanism, our natural instinct is to close off and barricade ourselves. And when we do that, it creates a void, because that light within us is covered, it's hidden, it's locked up, and it's not radiating and flowing through us as it is intended to. So, the many different ways that a void of light and absence of light can occur inside us, or if we are hiding ourselves, if we are in hiding and we're afraid to be visible, when we cover up or we close something up, or we shut ourselves off, those types of things, and we do that subconsciously. We close the door. We have a door in our hearts, and the Bible says that. It says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you open the door, I will come in. So we have this door. We have this doorway of which we are in charge. We are the steward of this doorway, and we can open and close it. Well, sometimes we close the door to our own hearts because of pain, fear, all those reasons I just mentioned. And the other thing that happens that can create a void of light is when our senses are dulled. Our senses become dulled, and then we're no longer perceiving or sensing from our heart what God is saying, what He is doing. And so we need to be careful. Jesus is saying, be careful. Be careful that you don't hide or cover up who you are. Be careful that you always are allowing yourself to be visible. And that means allowing who you are, your true identity, who you really are at your core. Don't be afraid. Don't cover up. Be careful that you always allow yourself to stay visible, no matter how uncomfortable you feel, no matter how vulnerable you feel, no matter how risky it feels. Just be careful that you don't retreat and go and cover up and lock yourself up. Always allow yourself to stay visible, Stay open, not closed. And then when you're allowing yourself to be open, that light within you, just let it illuminate your entire body so that it shines out of you, so that you are a lamp, set on a stand for all to see. That's what we're created for. We're created to be visible and to be seen so that the glory of God is made visible through us. And here's the thing, God is not ashamed of you. God is not ashamed of you. He made you. He created you. He knows everything that you've been through. He knows everything that you've done. He knows everything that you've walked through and been healed of. He knows everything, and He is not ashamed. He is looking at you going, my son, my daughter, you are marvelous. You are beautiful. You are powerful. And let my glory be made visible through you. Everything that you've been through is a testimony. It's not a source of shame. Everything that you've experienced, you have this wisdom. You have something beautiful that grew out of that experience. Let that be seen. And so we don't ever need to hide. We don't ever need to hide or protect ourselves from being humiliated or any of those things. We can just be. We can just fully open and be the light that God intended. So I want to end with this. There are 3 characteristics of someone who is filled with light and who is shining and radiating that light just as if you were set on a lamp and lighting up the room. These are the characteristics of someone who is lighting up the room. That all of that light is 100% flowing through you and emanating, radiating, shining out of you. So I mentioned, number 1, that you have the courage and you are allowing yourself to be fully visible and seen. And guess what that means? It's time to come out of hiding. And you know why? Because you are not any better or any worse than anyone else here on this planet. Nobody's better or worse than anyone else, because we're all created in God's image. We're all designed by a creator who made us marvelously and perfectly. So nobody needs to hide. It's time to come out of hiding. The second characteristic is that you're always open and receiving the flow of God's light, which means your heart is fully open, constantly receiving that flood of light. And then allowing it to move through you and out of you. And that means no fear, because one of the main things that shuts this off is fear. The other main thing that shuts this off is discouragement. And then I would say after that, it's shame and guilt. So not having any of those, not operating in fear, not operating from discouragement or shame and guilt, your heart, you're living from your heart fully. And the third one is, in order to do this, is to be fully, a characteristics is someone who is fully accepting themselves. You're in agreement with who you are. You're congruent within yourself about who you are and what you have in your heart to share. You're congruent. You're working connected to yourself. You're aware of what you have in your heart to share and to contribute to the world. And you're accepting that, so you're able to allow that to shine out of you. So I'm going to end with that, and let's come out of hiding. It takes a lot of courage to do that, but it's time now more than ever, when darkness is all around us, it seems right now on the planet. It's time for us to come out of hiding, to allow the light within us to fully shine and radiate, so that the world can see the glory of God, so that we take over this void, so that if we all shined our lights, there would be no void of light right now, and darkness couldn't be here. We could literally overtake it if we were all doing